Hello, welcome back. It's Steph here in your ear for the next 15 to 20 minutes, shall we say. When I was thinking about this week's episode, it came to me as a result of my further training, I guess you would say, or development of inner child healing. And I've wanted to deepen my understanding and deepen my learning for a long time. And the saying goes, when the student is ready, the master will appear. And after searching probably for the last year for a course or a workshop or somebody to help me deepen my knowledge and understanding and practice, basically, all of a sudden this amazing woman just appeared. And this week we started with my learning. And this is deepening my understanding of the inner child and how to work with the inner child. And I will be telling you more as I go along, but for now, I'm not going to share too much because I've only done the first module. There's a lot more to go. It's going to take me about 6 months to complete this. So it's a very in-depth development and training, which will not only deepen my connection to my inner child, but it'll also mean that the clients I work with will have a much deeper transformation when we work with their inner child. But the reason I'm mentioning this today is because I was sharing with a really lovely friend recently of the experiences that I've had this year with little Steph and the epiphanies I've had just through working with her. And the biggest one so far, I've had many epiphanies and many healing moments, but this year seemed like a really big one because we both, me present and little Steph, came to the realization together that we were searching for validation in ways that were no longer useful to us. And the revelation came through a simple question. And the question was, what are you trying to prove to somebody else? And I asked that question actually to somebody I was supporting. And in asking that question, I had this kind of moment of, oh my goodness, I am doing so many things to try and prove myself to someone else, to get external validation from somebody else. And it was a true moment where it floored me, and I had many, many tears as a result of it. And in that moment and in the next few hours that came after that, I began to process the next layer that was ready to be healed. And I'm sharing this today, and I've spoken about this on the podcast previously because it was something that happened this year. But I'm sharing it today because when I was telling this story to this lovely friend of mine, it became apparent that it might be useful for my listeners to hear this message again. Because as I was sharing it with my lovely friend, she had a moment of, oh my God, I have done the same. I have experienced, or I can recognize where I was seeking external validation from somebody or multiple people to feel valued, to feel desired, to feel seen and heard. And when I had that moment in time where I recognized that I was doing that, everything changed. Because what it meant was I was able to, first of all, spend some time with my inner child, spend some time with little Steph and say to her, it's okay, we don't need that anymore. We don't need somebody else to tell us that we are valuable, that we are incredible, that we have a gift, that we have something to share with the rest of the world that no one else can share in the same way as what we do. We don't need somebody else to tell us that. We just have to trust ourselves and trust that we know that those gifts exist, and it doesn't matter what other people think. And it was such a moment, like as I'm thinking about it now, and I know that little Steph is listening to me as I'm talking, because one of the things from the inner child course that I attended this week, and one of the things that the trainer said to me was, imagine that your inner child is sitting in your heart space, and between your heart space and your head space, there's direct communication going on. It's like there's a telephone line. And when she said there's a telephone line, I immediately went to piece of string, one cup on the end, another cup on the end. And, you know, if you're a similar age to me, you will know what I'm talking about. But if you're younger and you have no idea what I'm talking about, imagine that there's a direct line between your head and your heart, and your inner child sits in your heart, and she is listening. And it's like you're talking on the phone to her when you say things to yourself, like if you're standing in the mirror, oh my God, look at that roll, look at that stretch mark. Oh, my body isn't what it used to be. And if you listen to mine and Lauren's conversation a few weeks ago, we go into this and we talk about how our bodies are changing. But I always knew that the thoughts that we had about ourselves would manifest in a way that wasn't helpful for us. But this connection from our head to our head and our heart being our inner child, I started to think about, would I say to a 7-year-old, oh my God, your body's disgusting. Oh my goodness, who wants to look at that? Oh my goodness, you're not what you used to be. Those types of things. Would you actually say that to a young human being? And when I was able to picture myself, my younger self in my heart space, I thought, absolutely, I am never doing that again. Like, I'm going to catch myself doing it, and I'm never, ever doing that to her again, because I wouldn't, even my children who are in their 20s, would I say to them anything other than, you look great. And they always look great to me. There's nothing wrong with my kids at all. But, you know, when they were little, all we did was positive reinforcement all the time, because, you know, even when they had really difficult experiences, what did we do? We picked them up and we dusted them off and we helped them move forward. And in that moment where I had that epiphany of, we don't need to do this anymore. We don't need external validation. We have got ourselves. I've got you. I've got your back. The game changed. I stopped seeking validation from people that had no idea I was seeking validation. Like, they don't give a crap what I'm doing. The people that were in my head of times gone by, they don't care in the same way that I'm seeking validation from them, even though they're not even in my life. You know, it's just pivotal people in your life that have maybe said something or had some kind of influence that you're trying to prove yourself to, but you're never going to get them say, oh my God, I've seen what you're doing, Steph, and you're incredible. Like, that's what my younger self was waiting for. And she would be waiting an awful long time, because they have no relevance in my life. They're not in my life anymore, bar one. And that being my dad, being a fatherly figure of me always looking up to him, both metaphorically and actually physically as a small child, wanting that validation. And I will prefix this here with, and you listened to me speak about my dad before, he's an incredible human being. And he would never want me to feel like I needed validation from him. He isn't the type of person that would put me down so I'd want to show him I am amazing. It's just stuff that's going on in my head, stories that I'm making up, things that are very real to little Steph, but aren't in reality real. So I know my dad sees me and he sees my brother as wonderful human beings and always has done. But some things, the turn of events that happened when I was younger, meant that I would seek validation from him. So that continued through my lifetime. And on that beach, when I had that moment, that epiphany, I let go of that. I reconciled my relationship with my dad in a way that he never will understand, never needs to understand, because it was never about him. It was about little Steph and what was going on for her. But I was able to say to her in that moment, we've got this. We don't need that external validation. We don't need anybody to tell us anything that we don't know about ourselves. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I get client testimonials, clients messaging me saying, you know, the work that you do has changed my life in this way and that way. And I love it. because I love to hear that I'm making a difference, and it's not validating me. What it's doing is confirming I'm doing the right job, and actually just to keep going, because there are times when you doubt yourself. There are times in your cycle where I think, oh my God, this is so hard running a business myself. It's not as easy. And those comments are what keep you going and keep you driving yourself forward when you're, specifically when you're working for yourself. It can be a tough space to be in sometimes. So my clients reminding me that the work I'm doing is supporting them and helping them is extremely helpful to me in those moments. But if those comments never came, it's not that I then become a lesser person and think lesser of myself, if that makes sense. So I guess why I'm sharing this today is to kind of speak to you in that, what is driving you? What is driving you? What gets you to do what you do every day? And is it for you, or are you seeking something? And actually, what is your inner child needing from you? Do you even feel connected to your inner child? And another conversation I had a few weeks ago was at a networking meeting that I was at, and I was talking to the room about healing, and we got onto the subject of inner child healing. And somebody in the room said to me, and I think I've said this in a previous episode, I don't know how to connect. I don't know how to connect with hurt. And in the same way that we would connect with a younger person, if I was to approach a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old now, the instant might not necessarily be that they would be trusting of me. And if you haven't built that connection with your younger self, with your inner child, that relationship needs to be built. It's like any relationship, it's rapport building, it is continuity, persistence, and unconditional love. I'm reassuring them constantly that I'm not going anywhere, because if there's a rejection wound or just separation anxiety, I guess, or abandonment, that's the word I was looking for, there you go. If there's abandonment that's happened in their life, they will be up with their guard up and protecting themselves. So your inner child may not be ready to communicate and support and work with you. So it's about connecting in the joy in those moments, and not necessarily connecting in the sadness initially. So it's like dancing, swinging on a swing, doing cartwheels if you can, if you still can, roly-polies, things that you used to really love doing. And that then starts to build that beautiful relationship with your inner child. But I will keep you posted on how it's going, because the course that I'm doing starts with me deepening my connection. So I'm going through the process with this wonderful lady that's extremely spiritual as well as science-based, which just ticks all my freaking boxes, in order for me to deepen my learning and deepen my toolkit and be able to work with women in this capacity. I have to experience it first. So whilst I've done a lot of inner child work, I will just be deepening. Inner child healing isn't a one and done. It isn't a one-time show up, connect, heal, finished. It's an ongoing, beautiful work in progress. So when she said to me, you're going to go through the process, you're going to take all your future clients, I was like, bring it on. I love working and supporting little Steph. So I will continue to share with you the progress I'm making and the experiences I'm having, whether it's through the podcast or whether it's through my social media. But I would love to hear, and come over to the WhatsApp group or come over to my socials, or feel free to reply to this podcast. I would love to hear how your inner child shows up, if you have an awareness. I would love to know what activities you carry out where she's present, because I'm telling you now, she's present every day. You just may not become aware of it. So just for today, I would love to encourage you to just seek out your inner child today, albeit in a moment of joy, happiness, excitement, or sometimes she shows up in a moment of anger, frustration, irritability, like having a tantrum, slamming of a door, slamming of a kitchen cupboard, throwing something, or in sadness as well. Come over to the WhatsApp group. There's the link in the show notes. Or even better, if this is something that's very much intriguing with you, come and have a chat with me, and I can tell you the ways in which I can support you to either reconnect or continue to build that beautiful relationship with your inner child. Until next time.